Hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today. So just quick logistics, just as usual. If you have any comments, questions, please share them in the chat box, and I periodically check that box and read the questions aloud and try to answer them. So that in terms of the subject for today, for mindfulness and self-transcendence. And then if you have any other questions, just maybe keep them at the end, kind of questions that are unrelated to the subject, keep them to the end, and then we can have maybe random discussion. So mindfulness, let's start with a little experiment. If I ask you to just pause for a second, take a break from the screen, try to observe what you can in your environment, in your experience. What can you notice? What can you be aware of? What's going on? So mindfulness basically is this ability to observe our experience in this non-judgmental manner, where we simply remain in the present moment. We observe what's happening, what sort of thoughts and sensations occur to us. And for most people, especially those that are untrained in meditation or mindfulness, the common experience that we can observe, and it even happens to people who meditate or who practice mindfulness, but it's especially for those who don't have experience, is this kind of jumpy awareness. So we jump from one stimuli to the other stimuli, and we get distracted by our thoughts. So we think about one thing, and that one thing starts leading us into another thing, and then onto another thing, and we go completely astray, where we lose the connection with the present moment experience, right? So we can't focus on a task. We then get stressed out. We probably, maybe in some cases, we even dissociate because we are so removed from the present moment, because we go on this trip of following our thoughts, following our emotions, following different sensations, following different things in our environment without mindfully or consciously choosing to focus on certain things. So mindfulness, in short, is being able to bring our attention to the present moment, so willfully, consciously, with a choice, where we start paying attention to our experience. And it's not just this, as you might call, the external experience, so kind of observing what's happening in our environment in this current present moment, but most importantly, mindfulness can be used to kind of start paying attention into our internal realm of experience. So that realm includes obviously our thoughts, feelings, beliefs, maybe how we evaluate our experience, how we evaluate different sensations that we might perceive in that present moment. So what happens is that when you are mindfully present in that moment, it's not just the observance of what's happening. It's not just the noticing different things that are happening within you or outside of you, but most important is this kind of acceptance and going with the flow, and simply being able to go with whatever experience is throwing at you. It's not completely like being going along with everything mindlessly without a choice and just simply accepting, okay, I accept, but it's more like, okay, this is happening, okay, I don't need to evaluate it, I don't need to go on this mental trip of evaluation and judgment, but it's more like, okay, this is happening and I accept that this is happening. What can I do about it? If there's anything I can do about it, if there's anything that maybe I want to change in regards to this experience or this observation that I accept. Can mindfulness help with overthinking? Because overthinking almost ruined my life and I'm still recovering from it. Bearer of Words asks. Yes, definitely. So overthinking is that that experience of going along with every single thought that comes to you. So what happens is that you're not fully present, but when you start practicing mindfulness, you're going to start, for the first time, for example, you're going to start noticing that there's a constant stream of thoughts coming to your mind. So it's thought after thought after thought, and then you attach yourself to this thoughts, right? You believe them, right? Because this is your reality. So you can't see the separation between yourself and the thought. So you go along with every single thought that comes to you. So it's not, in this case, I can see how it could be confused with acceptance, but it's not so much the acceptance, but it's more like you're blending in with thoughts, right? So you're blending in with thoughts. There is no distance, no separation between you, yourself, your awareness, if you like, and the thoughts that are happening in your mind. So you go along. Whereas with mindfulness, you observe the thoughts. So you see the distance. You're kind of detached from your thoughts, or from your feelings, or from the sensations that you perceive, but not detached at the same time in a way that might happen in the dissociation, right? In dissociation, it's a complete mess, right? So it's just thoughts after thoughts. There's no kind of boundaries between them either. So it's complete detachment, which is the opposite extreme. But mindfulness is this kind of state of balance, the middle path, between being completely attached to your thoughts, to your emotional state, or to your experience, and a complete dissociation where there's complete detachment and everything is in the pieces. The whole experience is in pieces, and you can't integrate things because you are too removed from your experience and from what is happening. So other problems, I think, that other problems that lack of mindfulness can create is, kind of going through life without choosing things for ourselves. So the life might seem like doesn't have purpose, doesn't have meaning, which I was talking about it already in one of the live stream before. But when we are not fully aware, when we are not fully present, and we just jumping from one thing to the other like a little monkey, then it's hard to find meaning or purpose. It's hard to find a direction in your life in that case, because it doesn't make sense in a sense, right? So you're going from one thing to another without choosing to, without fully accepting or fully reflecting on your experience. So we can see here that, okay, lack of mindfulness causes specific problems like stress, anxiety, maybe uncertainty, because you lack the stability of the present moment because you are removed from it. And in turn, mindfulness can enhance your ability to stay engaged with life, to create meaning for yourself, to see the whole purpose in what's happening. But most importantly, it can help you to learn more about yourself. So introspection, reflection, all these kind of terms describe this ability of observing ourselves from this distance, where we create this kind of separation between ourselves and our thoughts. So we know that we are not fully our thoughts. They originate in us, probably, possibly, we don't even know that, but they are not fully us. It's the thoughts that we might experience, they are not the self that is present, right? So again, being present, it's kind of collecting yourself, organizing your experience, making sense of yourself, who you are as a person, where you are going, and at the same time, it creates kind of this state where you're not only the participator of the experience, or of where you are or who you are as a person, but you're also an observer at the same time. You're also a witness of what's happening, right? You're also a witness of yourself as a person, of your personality, right? So it's a kind of peculiar state where you are present, you observe all these different elements of your experience. You're conscious of your feelings, of your emotions, of thoughts, of beliefs, but at the same time you know that you are not all that is presented in front of you. You're not all that you observe. So again, there is this distance between yourself and what you observe, and this distance in the first place enables you to observe it right. So just quickly read some comments. Do you believe that mindfulness is allowing yourself to be an observer of your thoughts, granting yourself the privilege and ability to negotiate with those thoughts towards personal greatness? Yes, exactly. So basically through mindfulness you learn to observe your thoughts, right? To negotiate with us. Yes, exactly. So negotiate with those thoughts. I was gonna go into the subject of what we can do with mindfulness further in a minute. So how to practice mindfulness? As I've said before, mindfulness is simply an ability to create this distance between yourself and your thoughts. So observe what's happening, observe all thoughts and feelings that come to you in any and every present moment. And then there's also this component of acceptance. So you see a thought, you observe it, you don't judge it, because we often want to judge it, like, I don't want to have this thought, or I don't want to have this feeling, right? We are very quick on judging our experiences, where we say that, oh, this is unpleasant, I don't like it, I want to feel something else, right? So again, once we do it, and whilst we are doing it, whilst we're passing this judgment, we create further noise, further distortion of this observation of the present experience. So again, the second element of mindfulness is accepting what is coming towards us, what is present in this present moment experience, in the here and now. And then the third element of mindfulness is being open to our experience. So again, once you follow through this first two components or elements of mindfulness, you will be able to remain open to experience. You kind of become more curious, more kind of capable of getting into this state of flow, where you go along with various experiences that are presented to you, so moment by moment. So it's not like, I think many people can confuse that when you are mindful you have to be constantly present, right? There's nothing else but staying in the present moment, and if you can't do it, you can't practice mindfulness. And in reality, it's actually not like that. With mindfulness, it's constantly this feedback loop. It's like a feedback loop between observing what's happening, accepting what's happening, and then letting go. So move on, right? And by moving on, I mean bringing yourself back to the present moment. So let's say, for example, right now, if I pause for a second, I might have a thought that, I don't know, today was a nice day, whatever, right? So the thought is occurring to me. I'm observing this thought. Okay, that's the thought. And then I let it go, because I need to go back to the present moment experience. If I start dwelling on that thought, I will be removed from the present moment, right? And then I'm going to start dwelling on further thoughts related to that original thought. Then I start to evaluate it. Then maybe I'm going to start having some emotional reaction to that original thought, and off I go on the mental trip. So again, it's this feedback loop. It's continuously bringing your attention back to the present moment and observing what's happening, right? So it's not like you have to be constantly present. It's not like you have to be constantly mindful or constantly, focused on the present moment and what's in front of you. But rather, it's more about reminding yourself and remembering that you need to bring yourself back to the present moment over and over again, right? So mindfulness is not just about kind of managing your emotional or mental state. It's not just about bringing yourself again and again back to the present moment, because what's the point, right? Well, I said that one of the benefits is, becoming more engaged. Studies also confirm lowered stress levels. It lowers anxiety if you want to start training yourself more and more in this mindful experience and remaining in the present moment. But there is another interesting path that mindfulness can lead us towards. And that's why I added in the title of this live stream, that's why I added a concept of self-transcendence. Because self-transcendence and mindfulness, I think these are they have to go together. Like when you start practicing mindfulness, eventually, most likely you're gonna reach these higher levels of development. Most likely you're gonna reach this state of self-transcendence. And if you've ever reached the state of self-transcendence, it's most likely because you've been practicing some mindfulness. Sounds similar to this distinction between the mind and the self I've read about in the mind and the self. Okay, so self-transcendence, the mind and the self, that is an interesting distinction, because the mind itself could be seen as generating all these thoughts, whereas the self is like kind of more all-embracing awareness. So self-transcendence, just to kind of briefly describe the concept, we all probably all familiar with the transcendental state, or the term transcendental, what it means to transcend something. So self-transcendence is basically going above and beyond of who you are right now. I think many people associate self-transcendence with kind of all this spiritual state or evolved consciousness, right? But for me personally, the way I understand self-transcendence, it's not something that you reach once and you stay there. It's just one stage of the development, that a kind of state that you can go into, right? That you are capable of going. And if you are on the path of development, probably it's true, most people are on the path of development, but once you reach these higher stages of development, you're going to start transcending yourself. Or in other words, let me put it in better words, more clear. Moving into higher stages of development, of self-development, of personality development, or of ego development, requires this mechanism of self-transcendence. So basically what happens is, if you imagine yourself as being the person you are today, right? You are composed of this layer of different experiences, different beliefs, different ways of interpreting your experience, kind of different behaviors, different personality quirks that you might be having. So you are this layer of these different elements composing your identity, or who you think you are, right? Once you start developing onto the next level, right? So you're going to start acquiring new experiences, you're going to start learning new things, you're going to transcend this layer, right? So you're going to move onto this next layer of development, onto this next stage of development, right? So you transcend yourself, you go beyond of who you are today, right? So you basically, this act of self-transcendence is expansion of your personality, expansion of your identity, expansion of who you are as a person, in order to incorporate these different new elements of learnings that you acquire through your different experiences. So these learnings will produce new beliefs, new interpretations of your experience, new perspective or new perception onto yourself and the world around you. So again, this act of expanding yourself, of moving beyond of who you are today, beyond the narrative that you are having, is this act of self-transcendence. So it's not so much about self-transcendence being this mystical state of spiritual elevation or spiritual enlightenment, although obviously once you keep transcending yourself, I think eventually you will be able to reach these higher stages, but it's more this act of expanding yourself, moving beyond who you are today. So how self-transcendence and mindfulness connect with each other? So as I said before, during the practice of mindfulness, you observe yourself, you observe your thoughts, you observe your emotions, you observe your feelings and different beliefs that you might be having, and different responses and reactions that you might be having to different experiences, to different situations. So the more you practice mindfulness, the more often you will be able to go back to this present moment, right? And the more often you do it, the more you will notice that there are certain patterns in how your mind works. So there are certain thought patterns. For example, you might start noticing that, hey, my thoughts seem to be repeating over and over again. There is a pattern. For example, every second or every third day, I'm having this one specific thought, right? And once I'm having this specific thought, it leads me to have a specific emotional reaction. And once I'm getting into this emotional reaction, I'm going to start producing different thoughts, and most likely I'm going to be motivated to act on something, right? So this is what mindfulness allows you to do. Once you start practicing on a regular basis, once you start, remembering that you need to go back to this present moment and observe what's happening with the distance, you're going to start seeing all these thought patterns, all these beliefs patterns that, influence your behavior, influence your life in general. So in some situation, I think you can even reach the conclusion that perhaps some elements of your life haven't been defined by you, but actually by this repeated thought patterns, repeated beliefs that compel you to act in specific ways. So that's not very conscious way of living, right? If you ask me, because once you start observing these thought patterns, you're probably going to be curious enough to investigate where they're coming from. Why am I keep telling myself that I'm not good enough, for example? Why am I keep telling myself that my life doesn't have sense? Or why am I keep telling myself that something annoys me in my environment, right? So once you start noticing these different patterns, that gives you an option to either act on them, keep acting in the same manner you've been acting for God knows how many years, or to choose an alternative, right? And that's exactly where self-transcendence comes in, because mapping all these patterns of your thoughts, of your beliefs, of different interpretations, different reactions that you might be having, different kind of motivations or impulses that you might be having. All these elements are composing your personality. So who you are as a person, right? Who you think you are as a person. All these elements is like a little mosaic of different pieces, different puzzles that contribute to who you are. So self-transcendence, obviously, as I said before, is moving beyond this layer of all these beliefs, all these thoughts, all this emotional or feeling reaction that you might be having, all these drives and impulses. It's not necessarily changing them. It's not necessarily letting them go completely, but it's transcending them. So adding more to who you are, expanding yourself, expanding your personality and awareness. What do you guys think? Let me read some comments. Do you have any tricks to avoid the judging parts of our thinking process? I get stuck on that sometimes, myself and others. Yeah, so it kind of, so what you're saying here, that you observe that you're having this automatic pattern of judging yourself and judging others. And you ask me about any tricks to avoid the judging parts of the thinking process. So you're asking me if it's possible to bypass one stage of mindfulness, right? Because as I said before, the mindfulness is about observing non-judgmentally your thoughts, your beliefs, your different reactions, and then accepting them so that you can let them go. So it sounds to me a little bit that you are not fully accepting the fact that you are judging yourself and judging other people, right? So unless I misunderstood you, but it sounds to me like, okay, so you see yourself judging, but you want to get rid of the judging. So that's not fully accepting the experience. Unless you mean that you can observe yourself and you can observe other people, but then you find yourself judging the experience. So in that case, again, you can use mindfulness to become aware, to observe yourself judging yourself and judging other people in the present moment. So it's like building a habit. So keep reminding yourself, okay, I need to observe myself. I need to observe my experience. And then you're going to start catching yourself, judging yourself and judging other people. The more often you do it, the more you will notice like, okay, I'm actually separated. So I don't need to do it. It's something that runs on autopilot in the background, in a sense, but I don't need to judge myself or other people. But again, it has to be in lines with mindfulness. It has to be kind of done gracefully. So you can't just say like, all right, I have to stop the judgment. I have to stop the negative thoughts. Like, I guarantee this is not going to work. The moment you say it, it's not going to work. That's where the mindfulness comes in. You observe, you accept, okay, I'm judging. And you let that go. You don't have to go along with the judgment. You don't have to manifest it. You don't have to express it. If the person I think I am, personality, identity, can be changed, does that mean what I really am is something apart from this person? Well, what do you think? That would be an interesting, because there is an interesting, subjective element. It kind of refers to, I mean, you can feel in your experience if you are this personality or that identity, or if you're separate from that. But based on all that experiences, or all that mindfulness experiences I've been talking about, it seems like there is this component of awareness. Obviously, you need awareness to be mindful, to observe yourself, to observe this present moment experience, right? That's the awareness. But is the awareness the same as your personality? I think there is a connection, obviously, but it's not like you're only the personality or only your identity. These are just the elements of your experience of yourself, or who you think you are, right? But there's also this strong component of awareness. So what happens is that with continuously practicing mindfulness or meditation, by the way, you don't have to practice meditation to practice mindfulness. All you need to do, again, as I was saying about mindfulness, just bring your attention back to the present moment. And you can do it anytime during the day. When you're working on something, when you're doing housework, when you're going for a walk. anytime during the day. No need for meditation, no need for Buddhism, although Buddhism could be very helpful in understanding this concept further. But as I was saying, once you start practicing mindfulness more and more, and it becomes habitual to go back to a present moment, to observe what's happening non-judgmentally, accept the experience and let it go, what happens is that you kind of train your awareness, right? As you create this distance between your awareness and your thoughts, something very interesting is happening, and some researchers has been calling it something called witness self or witness awareness, because it's like I said before, it's both an actor, a participator in the experience, but at the same time it's removed from it. It's a witness of that experience. So as you're building up this witness self, witness awareness, this is going to be a new self, right? So in a sense, once you transcend the current layer of this, all these automatic thoughts, feelings, experiences, behaviors, once you transcend it, you're going to be that witness self that has been observing the current layer of who you are, in a sense. Let me know if that makes sense. Alpha Dog LA, thank you so much. Thank you. So if we quickly recap, mindfulness, observance of the present moment, creating a distance, kind of removing yourself or detaching yourself from your thoughts, from who you think you are, in a sense, but without saying like, oh, I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this. You're still, you're still having a specific personality, you're still having different feelings, different emotions. Embrace yourself, right? Accept it all. But the more you practice, the more you're creating or developing this witness self, which will enable you to go to the next stage of development, in a sense, to become more that you are. Because you could probably imagine it like a light shining on my hand, for example. If you imagine my hand being your current personality, your awareness is here, right, at first, and then you're going to start practicing mindfulness. You're going to be rising up and up and up, and create the next layer, which is way bigger than the current layer of your personality and who you are. So all your beliefs, all your behaviors, all this is going to expand, because you're rising above, you're transcending the current layer, in a sense. I don't know, that was a silly metaphor, but I hope it kind of makes sense. Let me see if there's anything else. Oh yeah, and also by the way, in the last live stream I was talking about the shadow work, which is kind of interesting. Kind of interesting for those who were in that live stream, because we had a little earthquake, which is very timely. So with shadow work, with this you can use mindfulness for shadow work, actually, because with mindfulness you will be able to observe all these thought patterns that are happening, all these impulses, all these drives, right? Even all the naughty drives, all the drives that compel you to maybe do harm to yourself or do harm to other people. So once you start practicing more and more of that mindfulness, you will be able to see all these negative patterns that maybe you don't really like in yourself, patterns that you don't really accept. But with mindfulness, again, there's this element that is important to the mindfulness practice, to accept all that you observe, all that is happening within your field of awareness, all that you are aware of. in that moment. So super beneficial in shadow work, super beneficial in stress and anxiety, as I was saying before, especially in this times, I believe. I think stress and anxiety are kind of same thing in a sense. I mean, stress perhaps is a little bit less intense than anxiety. With anxiety, you get all the symptoms, but with stress, it's like, all right, the tension is building up, and then eventually, I think stress will sooner or later lead to anxiety. But again, with mindfulness, you can go back to this present moment and actually reduce the tension of stress before it blows into a full anxiety episode or panic attack, right? And we don't like that, obviously. Obviously, it's not very, very pleasant experience. And by the way, about stress and anxiety, I will be soon launching a private coaching group for those people interested in working with stress or working with anxiety, or simply looking for ways of relaxation or kind of enhancing their mindfulness even, right? So it's going to be a private group, private workshop, and I will let you know more about it soon. I'm still working on it. I'm still in a stage of full planning, but it's going to be private group. It's not going to be recorded. So basically what I'm doing with clients on one-on-one, I will be able to do it in a group setting. So maybe 5 to 10 people, everything completely private, confidential. So let me know what you think in comment box, or send me an email if you're interested in that. But as I'm saying, it's still in a stage of planning, so we'll see how that goes. I'm super excited about it, and it's gonna be way more affordable than one-on-one sessions with me. So if you're looking for coaching, but maybe it's too expensive for you, then maybe the group option will be cheaper. Do you think you can reach a stage where you, as pure awareness, transcends you as a mind, a person? Yeah, many people say that generally we are so-called open systems, so we don't know how far we can develop, or we don't know how far this journey of development goes. So in order to understand the higher stages of development, someone needs to go there first. Someone needs to develop to that level. But the problem is that in order for other people to understand this high level of developments, they need to get to that level too, or at least be advanced enough in a sense. I don't really like that word because it implies that it's worse to be less aware or less mindful, which shouldn't be the case at all. But if we work with this analogy of expansion, we don't know how far we can expand, but in order to understand, so even if someone do expand to maximum, if it's possible at all, right, in order to understand that person and what they communicate, we need to be as close to their development as possible. Otherwise, it will not make sense. We can understand it on the intellectual level, we can understand it on rational level, but not really on the experiential one. And to really understand something, it needs to click on the experiential level. Like, you need to fully realize it. All right, that's what it is. It's not just about something making sense, but also kind of clicking with whole our being, whole our experience. So again, it goes back to this present moment experience, right? It's all about the present moment. Can self-awareness suppress sexual desire? Why would you want to suppress it? didn't like to be controlled by this drive. Well, there is probably difference between going along with every single drive that is present within you. Like, okay, I'm hungry. I'm gonna go out now and hunt, right? And there is a difference. And the alternative is, all right, I'm being hungry, but I'm gonna wait, right? So if you're being controlled by your desires, well, it means that you probably can't fully control them, right? So it's again going back to the present moment, in a sense, observing what's happening instead of going along with every single impulse that's happening, that's present. So in my opinion, like in a general sense, with any sort of drives, any sort of desires, it's not about suppressing their desires. And I think many people misunderstand this concept, especially in like spiritual cycles. Oh, you gotta kill your ego, you're gonna kill your desires. No. It's not about the killing the desires, because in the process of getting rid of desires or suppressing the desires, you're creating noise. The very fact of trying to suppress the desire, or in trying to control something, or in trying to getting rid of something, if it's a desire, impulse, or part of a personality, you create another distraction and you are off on a trip, on a mental trip away from the present moment. So being present, all right, there is a desire, you observe it. If it's, if it's not on your priority list, like, you have to eat, obviously, eventually, then yeah, go along with the desire. But it's not about like suppressing or getting rid of something. Thank you so much. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Schultzy 100. Thank you so much. I hope to see you next time. So yeah, mindfulness and self-transcendence. I kind of try to cover most of these aspects I was planning to cover. So we have about 15 minutes left, and if there's anything specific you would like me to discuss in regards to mindfulness or self-transcendence, I'm open to it. Or if you want to ask some random question, or you want to ask, you want to talk about some random subject unrelated to mindfulness and self-transcendence, I'm also open to that. I'm usually trying to give people a chance. Like, I advertise this live stream like, okay, there is a subject, there's a specific subject I'm going to be talking about, but there's also Q&A, because I want to give you guys an opportunity to discuss things that maybe normally you wouldn't have an opportunity to discuss. So again, if there's anything, you are free to ask, and I'm gonna check my notes if there's anything I missed. Oh, and also, by the way, some of you might already know, but I already have an awareness and mindfulness and dissociation workshop, where there are 4 or 5 videos which teach you how to practice mindfulness and what to do if you dissociate. So what to do if you struggle with being in the present moment, right? So if you experience all the symptoms of dissociation, like emotional numbness, or spacing out, or not being able to stay focused on the present moment, there is that awareness and dissociation workshop. It's on my website. The link to it should be also in the description of the video. So if you want to learn more about mindfulness, if you want to learn more about staying present, then I invite you to join that workshop. It's just the videos, and it includes the whole book full of different exercises that could help you to kind of collect yourself. So dealing with it's super helpful in dealing with dissociation. We need advice on coronavirus isolation. I'm a hardcore introvert and I'm having a really tough time of getting straight. Yeah, coronavirus. I was hoping nobody's gonna ask about it, but obviously we can't ignore it. So I know it's been tough on some people, and you know the world is kind of changing in front of us. I've made a video on that last week, but there is I think there's a very positive side to this whole situation. I don't try to minimize that, you know, people dying, people that getting sick, and obviously the world falling apart in front of us. But think about all this idea of social isolation. It gives us a really good opportunity to kind of dive into ourselves, learn more about ourselves, face our shadows, right? Face different feelings, different emotions that we might have been ignoring for a long time. So it's a kind of time where I think it's very good to practice mindfulness, actually, because it's a good time to learn about yourself, to engage in that process of self-reflection, in this process of learning more about yourself, learning more about other people, maybe people close to you, depending on how isolated you are. But, you know, try to use this opportunity for doing things you wouldn't be normally doing, right? It gives you this opportunity to dive deeper into yourself and learn more about who you are as a person, I think. And also generally, I think there is a very big potential for the society to even change, maybe, right? Because if you look at the world, everyone has to do the same thing right now, and everyone has a common goal, right? Everyone has a common goal in mind, right? And everyone knows how to reach this goal. Apparently, that's what the media and the governments and the health authorities are telling us. So maybe in this process we can learn to be kinder to each other. Maybe we can learn some compassion towards ourselves and other people. So again, there is a very beautiful positive side to what is happening, and I think it's part of the process of creating maybe a better world eventually. I know maybe I'm sounding like I'm a hopeless optimist, but you know, in terms of anything in the world, you can't have a negative without positive. There are always two sides, so you always have a chance. You always have a choice. You can choose either the negative or the positive, or you can choose both, right? So you can have the holistic perspective. Do you believe, from Dominic, do you believe one can regress from mindfulness and self-transcendence once they've achieved understanding and application of them? Yeah, I think it's not like any mental state. Obviously, let me rephrase it. During mindfulness, when you start practicing mindfulness, you will start noticing that nothing is really permanent in the world. And nothing is really permanent within yourself. So what happens is that you are constantly in this process of becoming. So everything is transient. Everything is changeable. It changes moment to moment. And that includes also your mental state and your awareness. That's why you need to practice mindfulness in a way that you keep going back to the present moment, because you can't stay there. It's not a permanent state. It's about bringing your awareness back. And the same about self-transcendence. You expand, but you can contract back to the lower stages of self-awareness. So it's more like the whole expansion, in a sense, the whole transcendent self that you might develop. It's just one of the potential that you might be having. It's one of the mental states that you experience that you can choose to go to, right? So it's not like you transcend yourself and you're in this blissful state of awareness, because you're still having, as I've explained with this hand metaphor before, you're still having the older self within yourself. So you're still having the older aspects of your personality within you. So you can contract, you can expand, depending on different circumstances, I believe. If you need to, for example, just to quickly explain, if you need to use a specific part of behavior or belief within specific circumstances, like for example, you need to revert to fighting for safety, you're gonna contract, right? You're gonna contract your awareness just for reaching the specific goal in specific circumstances. But it doesn't mean your what you've done, all the work you've done in terms of self-awareness is completely gone after that. Alpha Dog, let's see. For a long time I was too depressed to work out, but working out is the best thing for my depression. That's good that you noticed that. Yeah, I hate that paradox. Do you have tips for getting the energy to work out? I would advise to start small. So don't develop very big expectations that, for example, you have to, I don't know what sort of workouts do you do, but let's say you set a goal for yourself, I'm going to work out for an hour, right? If you find yourself constantly struggling to start, lower the expectations to half an hour or even 15 minutes, right? Until the point where it becomes manageable. So you can even lower the expectation to 5 minutes, right? Start from this point. So let's say from tomorrow you're gonna start working out for 5 minutes a day. Come on, this is achievable, right? So 5 minutes. If this is too tough, lower to 1 minute, right? And then once you start mastering it, once you find yourself habitually starting the workout, your 1 minute workout, your 20-minute workout, increase the expectations, increase the goal. So rise it to 10 minutes, rise it to 20 minutes, then half an hour, then 1 hour, whatever becomes comfortable. Like usually if we feel like we don't have energy to exercise, or we feel too lazy, or we're procrastinating in terms of specific goals, right? It's because our expectations are too high. So obviously we will not have energy to meet them, right? If it's too high, if it's something I cannot achieve, I'll have zero energy to do it because I know I can't do it. So lower the expectations to a point where you can be certain that you can do it. Even if it's, ridiculous ridiculous goal of working out for 1 minute, but it's something. You have to start. And then you start building up higher and higher expectations. Right, so don't start expecting 200 push-ups at one day. Yeah. So start with very low expectations and then start increasing them. How about meditation for the energy workout? That's a good question. Meditation for energy workout. I think meditation could be part of the workout. I used to work out and then have a 10-minute or 15-minute meditation slot after the workout just to collect myself. But I don't see any reason why you wouldn't do it the other way around, right? Because meditation kind of helps you to collect yourself. So depending on what you want to achieve, right? You can use it before the workout probably as well. Or use it both, before and after workout. Why not? 5 minutes before, 5 minutes after, or 10 minutes. All right, let's do one last question. Let me check. sorry, just a long message. In dreams we are conscious of the dream reality and have an awareness of our own free will and external events and objects that are present against or regardless of our will. However, it is our mind that is creating this entire reality. That is not to say we think in a dream that there are representations of necessity of freedom, and yet they are all creations of our, say, subconscious self. Do you think that, like the dream, waking reality, which also appears to have representations of freedom and a necessity, is also the product of a free, transcendent, unknown self? Yeah, this is kind of complex. This is kind of complex question. So let me make sure I understood in the first place. So you're saying that there's maybe some extra consciousness or extra elements of consciousness or self that creates a reality, maybe? Sorry, I'm kind of struggling to understand. I'm just gonna move on for now. Last question. Are you familiar with Tai Lopez 67 steps? Do you have a program? Nope. Alright guys, I will be wrapping up. I'm so sorry about not being able to understand your message. I'll read it one more time before I go. So I would imagine you're asking about whether our mind creates the reality, or whether maybe there is our unconscious or unconscious mind creating the reality. Maybe. I mean, obviously there's a huge unconscious aspect in creating our experience in the first place. So if we are going around unconsciously or going around without paying attention to the present moment, we will be at the mercy of our unconscious. So when we start, for example, when we have different habits, different belief systems, and we are not analyzing them, we are not inquiring where they're coming from and whether we agree with them, they're gonna be, in a sense, creating our reality, right? Unconsciously. Right? Because we're not questioning the origins, that these beliefs, these interpretations, or kind of like lenses that we are putting in order to interpret our experience, haven't been chosen by us. It's like a product accumulated through repeated experiences, rewards and punishments, whatever you can think about. But very often, in that sense, you could say that the unconscious, or the mind that is not our awareness, is creating our reality. Anything beyond that will be the subject for metaphysics, and I'm just not going there, because we don't know. We just simply don't know. There's no answers. I could speculate. I could, give some ideas. Oh yeah, what's the nature of the reality, and if there's any extra force that is creating. But I really don't want to go into that direction, because it's a limitless subject, and we're just gonna stay here until 3 a.m. at the morning speculating. So what I do know is that we can control our minds to a certain extent. We have an influence over our beliefs. We have an influence over our awareness. We have an influence over our personal development. I mean, that is a lot of freedom. And you might say, like, oh, is it really freedom? I mean, are we really free? Are we really choosing to be aware? Well, I don't know, but it appears that way, right? It appears that way, that the more aware we are, the more conscious we are, the more we expand this field of awareness, the more we expand this field of our willpower or conscious control. So if I had to put a bet on anything that is going to improve my life or is going to give me more choice, I would bet on mindfulness and expanding our awareness, because even in terms of, and it's not just the spirituality that has been emphasizing mindfulness. It's not just Buddhism that has been, obsessed with present moment and building awareness. But psychology studies confirm over and over again all these benefits of mindfulness that are super beneficial to our growth and physical and emotional health. So I hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. Thank you so much for joining. If you're new, I know that I should have probably introduced myself on the beginning, but just a quick reminder, my name is Joanna and I'm a coaching psychologist. If you'd like to work with me on a one-on-one basis, feel free to send me a message, feel free to send me an email. And if you're not sure if coaching is right for you, you can book a free 20 minutes consultation on my website. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you have a lovely weekend. Stay safe and wash your hands. Take care. Bye.